trailer for a new documentary called To Be of Service. It is about the toll that war takes on people and how service dogs are helping veterans deal with PTSD. Now, even though canine companions, they've proven to be extremely effective, the VA, they're studying the use of service dogs. But as of now, they're denying funding them as a treatment. And joining us now is the producer and director of the film, Josh Aronson. Josh, thank you for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we may have a term for it now, PTSD, but certainly the traumas associated with the war, nothing new. In fact, as you mentioned in the film, that our first general said the future of our armed services and the future of our country will be integrally linked with how we take care of our veterans at George Washington. Yet I was surprised, even though it's not a secret how effective these companion dogs are, these service dogs. We don't subsidize these folks that so desperately need it. We're really falling short here, aren't we?
We certainly are, and our government, it's a real stain on all of us that our government is not taking care of our veterans when they come home. The VA is certainly got huge challenges because of the budget overruns and because just staffing it with enough therapists and enough professionals is very difficult. But nevertheless, we should be doing everything possible to do that.
And by all accounts, it will be money well spent for a host of reasons. Now, in the film, you follow veterans, Vietnam, as well as Afghanistan and Iraq vets, both in the before and then in the aftermath of being paired with these dogs. And talk about some of the lies you encountered before they were matched with these dogs, because you're talking about drug addiction, suicide attempts, basically isolating themselves from loved ones and family here, and such a huge difference, even in the few months after, how much their lives change.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. You tell the story very well. When I came upon veterans who had intended to get a dog, the way we made the film was to find vets who were going to get a dog at some point in the near future. And we went to visit them and then filmed them in the state they were in. And they were both more or less shut-ins, the two vets we follow longitudinally, as we say, over time. They were shut-ins. They were having very, very great difficulty with their family. If they went out, they would go to the supermarket at 3 o'clock in the morning because they couldn't encounter any kind of crowd or people in lines. It was just too debilitating and would trigger them into flashbacks and other very difficult behavior. So they were miserable. They were in a state where they didn't really feel. They report that they couldn't love their family. One man from Billings, Montana, his name is Tom, beautiful guy, described PTSD as being under a lake of ice, a foot of ice, and you can see through it, and you can even see your family on the other side, but you can bang as hard as you want against the ice, but you can't get through to them. And that's what it feels like, to be completely that isolated and that shut in, and with the inability to feel. And when they get their dogs, it was remarkable how quickly they started smiling, they started relating to other people, because the dogs would bring them to other people. The dogs forced them to get out of their isolation. Just imagine you have a dog and he's a wonderful, bubbly, terrific animal. He's got to go out. He's got to go. So you're forced to take him out no matter how you feel. Well, just the action of opening the door and going outside and going to a dog park means you're doing something outside of yourself for something else, which is the dog. And combined with that, what they learn, what they feel, as we all have with dogs, is the dog bonds with you and gives you unconditional love. And that unconditional love is vital, because no matter what you've done, no matter what you were commanded to do, no matter what shame you carry from your service, things that you saw, things that you did, things that you saw other people do back when you were 19 or 20 years old, the dog doesn't care what you did. The dog doesn't care if right now you're having a rage. The dog just doesn't care. He adores you. He loves you unconditionally. And that ultimately will translate to your feeling the same thing back for the dog. It always happens. It's impossible to resist that. And that feeling you have for the dog is like opening a door, and it's opening a door that brings you back into the world of feeling. So soon they can feel for their children, they can feel for their wives, and they report they can experience love again. And it's just a remarkable thing to watch.
And I thought it was well put in the piece where you say it helps them come home. And while physically they may come home, a part of them doesn't until they can, as you say, have that breakthrough. Now, I want to play a clip from your documentary because in it, you talk about, though well-meaning, the treatment that they often get is not what they need.
It cost me relationships, it cost me love, it cost me my friends, it cost my family.
Their answer is, give me medication. Medication takes care of everything.
So they gave me lots of drugs, and my symptoms got worse. Then I got more drugs. I went to my VA and I said, I've got to do something, I've got to do something, I've got to do something. And they said, well, how about a dog? Getting my dog, getting my Timothy, it was second only to my child.
Boots looked up, I looked at him, and he ran to me. That's when everything started to get a lot better.
That seemingly story after story where they come in with obviously the night tremors, terrors, they come in obviously with all the, as you said, the descriptions of just isolation, and they're prescribed drugs, and then in many cases that leads to full-on addiction. Who ends up subsidizing these dogs? Because we already said it's not coming from the federal government, and they're expensive to have a fully trained service dog. Where is the funding coming from?
Well, there's two ways to get a dog from a certified dog trainer. Some you have to pay for it. And it's $25,000 to $30,000, and so most veterans coming back from war really don't have $25,000 or $30,000 to put towards a dog. So they move heaven and earth to try and raise it from family and friends, and they work and they save, and they'll do crowdfunders, and they'll somehow raise the money, and they'll make a deal with the dog trainer to pay over time, and whatever they have to do, they'll do to pay it. But the majority of the larger dog training organizations are funded by independent foundations and individuals who care about vets and love dogs. So there's a lot of places where it's fully funded. The problem is it's a 2 or 3 year waiting list because there's so many veterans with PTSD who want a service dog. So that's the rub. You can't get a dog until you've gotten yourself to a place where you qualify to get a dog. And what that means is if you're drinking, or if you're doing drugs, or if you're incapacitated in a way that makes it seem as if you're not responsible, you will not get a dog because they care about the dogs. The dogs are highly trained, and they're only going to give you a dog when you're prepared to and capable of handling that dog. So by the time you've gotten yourself off of drugs and gotten yourself off of alcohol, and if you've had a suicide attempt, as many of them have, they have to overcome that, and they have to come back, and they have to be healed enough to be able to take care of a dog. Well, once you're ready, then you'll have to wait 3 years. So it's a really tragic situation. It's just awful.
And the transformations of those that are fortunate enough to get paired with these dogs, you'll show throughout the documentary, both in the immediate time before the dog and they get united, and then in the months after. And again, for details on the film and how you can see it, please visit tobeofservicefilm.com, and it is in theaters, they say, as we speak. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and best of luck with the film.
Actually, Rich, if I can say, it opens Friday in New York. Friday at the Cinema Village. It's not in the theaters yet, but this Friday it will.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification. Thanks again. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have the latest on the wildfires ravaging California. Stay with us.